Hi, my name is Connor Ford, and this is the presentation for the Overwatch Game Testing Study Lab from September 2021. So, the overall findings for the report, first of all, the participants seemed very upset with the game's community overall. Secondly, they were frustrated with rambling match players, so the matchmaking system. They were frustrated with certain characters. They had differing opinions about the maps in the game, and overall, the gameplay and ability to play with their friends was very appealing to them. So, for overall metrics, likes, and dislikes, for the Net Promoter Score, ended up being a 28, with the average rating overall from the participants being an 8.33 out of 10, so around an 8. For the average fun rating, it was averagely rated a 3.9 out of 5, with 5 being ideal. Average interest to continue playing the game was 4.14 out of 5, also being ideal as 5. And then the average likeliness to play regularly was a 4.2 out of 5. Again, 5 being the ideal score. Overall, general likes of the game from the study were characters, mechanics, roles, classes, and gameplay. And then the general dislikes from the game were random players or matchmaking, and the community was pretty toxic as reported by numerous participants, as well as there was difficulty for some participants in certain areas. Overall, there were 59 participants in the study, all of which had previous experience with Overwatch specifically. Most of them mainly play Overwatch as like their favorite game, but all of them play shooters. Main findings of the study were centered around the game's community and the players who play it, with most participants claiming to enjoy that they play with their friends more in the game. So, for finding one, this is the most critical, most concerning finding that we found through the test. So, this one's titled Community Concerns because this is where the participants overall seemed very upset with the game's community and they weren't having quite that much fun with it. As for data that supports this, 15% of the participants found that the game was only somewhat fun from the toxicity that they encountered while playing. 36% of them claimed to enjoy an equally cooperative and competitive game, so they like being able to work with their teammates instead of their teammates kind of working against them due to poor attitude, poor toxicity, and everything. 19% of the participants would not likely continue playing the game in the future, also likely due to being driven away from toxic players and just poor experiences overall. As for the analysis of this, many participants claimed that the community was very toxic and difficult to deal with. So, for instance, in the self-report, the open response questions in the survey, most of them claimed that the community was super toxic and it was just not very fun to them overall because of that. And this can drive players away from wanting to play, especially any potential newcomers, for one. So, like, if someone were to just start playing the game and they encountered that, then that could very easily drive them away if they don't have a good enough attachment to the game already. As for the recommendation, we would consider looking into the chat and punishment systems within the game. So, potentially add some filters or harsher punishments within the game to deter players who do these kinds of things, these toxic behaviors, to stop doing it. So it would encourage a more enjoyable community and a better experience for all players. As for finding two, this one's classified as major. We called this one random players. It has mostly to do with the matchmaking and how people just don't seem to enjoy being matched with random people on most instances. So 25% of the participants felt that the gameplay was too slow, reasoning that their teammates were very difficult to cooperate with They ended up working against them a whole lot, mostly because they're playing solo instead of with a team. 27% of the participants felt that the game's combat was poor. Again, reasoning that they had to do all the work for the team because their teammates, the random ones they got matched with, just didn't seem to want to do anything. 12% were not satisfied with the game due to the other players that they matched with. And 16% of players would not likely continue to play in the future, either out of frustration or because they just lost interest because of it. As for analysis, many participants seemed very frustrated that they got matched with these random players, claiming that they would much rather play a single player game afterwards because the experience was just so non-team like to them. It was uncooperative. It was hard to work with these random people. And most of the participants' opinions on the matter claimed that there was a large lack of communication within the game from these random people. So we recommend that we recommended the design team considers looking into the matchmaking system as well as any potential communication systems, so they could tweak and adjust skill-based matchmaking to maybe make it more evenly matched per game, so that both teams on both sides were all about even skill-wise, so that it was a fair match for both sides, all players in it. And maybe add a new system, such as like a pinging system that could make communicating better, such as like, hey, look over there, or maybe we need to go here and do this. It doesn't need to be anything complicated, but it could be looked into. As for finding 3, this is more of a minor finding, as evidenced by people's concerns, is the character balance in the game. For 49% of the participants felt that the characters and weapons overall were pretty unbalanced. 30% of the participants did not agree that all characters do acceptable damage. 30% of the participants did not think all characters had an equal impact on the match's outcome, so this could make other characters like not only less played, but also maybe played so little that they might just be obsolete and forgotten even. 22% of the participants did not feel that the characters were a strong aspect of the game, and most players ended up with a strong opinion against certain characters due to the amount of damage they do or what they do, how their abilities are, how they're designed, what their weapons do even. And most common, the 3 characters that were mentioned specifically out of any within the free response questions to the survey were Mercy, Bastion, and Junkrat, claiming that characters were broken or overpowered, while other characters didn't seem to do much according to our participants. So we recommend that the design team might look into the characters in the game, testing and tweaking for balance. Could use a balance pass. These specific characters in question according to the survey could be given the most attention, looked at mostly. They could be in for a potential rework, anything. As for the 4th finding overall in the test, it's more neutral because some people had a positive opinion of it, others neutral, or others negative, sorry. This one is about the game maps. So 25% of the participants felt that the maps were a little below average in quality or how fun they were to play. 71% of the participants enjoyed the more freeform type of gameplay, meaning that it wasn't super linear, although yes, some game modes are specifically linear for that reason, but they were allowed to roam around more than just straight A to B. 49% of the participants felt that the combat was satisfying due to the maps, so they really enjoyed playing on the maps and not only seeing the graphics and art style, but also some maps helped the feel of combat and it felt really fun to play. 60% of the participants felt that the maps were an excellent part of the game overall. They not only enjoyed how they felt to play, they felt the game was very fluid from it, and they really enjoyed it overall. There were varying opinions from all participants on the maps. Those who might have taken a dislike towards the maps felt that there were either too many or too few for them personally, but most of all, they tended to mention that some obstacles within the maps could prevent fluid gameplay. Like, specifically, a couple participants within the test mentioned that there were obstacles that blocked them or prevented them from moving somewhere where they wanted to. So we recommend that the design team could look into testing and examining the maps, specifically looking for any potential design concerns such as obstacles in the way, objects that could impede movement, and fluid gameplay, so that everyone has a nice, smooth experience playing a game. As for the last major finding in the test, this was the positive finding, gameplay and playing with friends. So 42% of the participants rated the game positively on the Net Promoter score, claiming that the game was fun to play with friends. 78% of the participants felt that the game was very fun to play, reasoning that playing with friends is very enjoyable to them, and they always look for that within any game they play. 84% of the participants would be very likely to continue playing the game in the future. So most participants of the study were overwhelmingly positive about the ability to play with their friends, claiming that the game is more fun to do so, such as within the free response questions of the survey, a lot of them were saying over and over repetitively that they enjoyed playing with friends and that they were able to with this game specifically. It made it a lot more enjoyable to them overall. Many players for any game out there tend to prefer playing with friends, not only because it's more fun for them and enjoyable, but it's people that they know, so they can have better communication for gameplay, and it could make them have not only a more fun and interesting, enjoyable time, but it also might even allow them to perform better if that's what they're going more for, is competitiveness. So we recommend that the design team can look into any additional improvements that might need to be made here and there. They could adjust and tweak aspects of the game for stronger balance, keep the game current and well taken care of, and potentially even involve the community more, such as adding community voted or suggested aspects or improvements, such as maybe community made maps, community suggested game modes or ideas, anything that they could add to the game. It'll make it more cooperative between the designers and the community and overall, and get them more involved. As for high-level metrics of the study overall, for the Net Promoter score of the study, it was 28 after calculation. 42% of the participants, which was 25 of them out of 59, were promoters for the game. 44%, or 26 of them, were passive, while 14%, or 8 of them, were negative. For the rating of fun from the 59 participants in the study, 4 of them rated the game as slightly fun, which is 7% of them. 9 rated it as somewhat fun, which is 15%. 35 rated it as very fun, which is a very large proportion of them, being 59%, and 11 of them rating it as extremely fun, which is 19%, with extremely fun being the ideal rating here. As for interest in continuing to play, 1 of them was not at all interested, being about 2%. 3 of them were slightly interested, being 5%. 7 of them were somewhat interested at 12%. 24 were very interested, and 24 were extremely interested, both at 41%, with extremely interested being the most ideal rating in this case. As for how likely our participants would be to play the game regularly, 1 of them in the 59 in the study was not at all likely, which is 2%. 1 of them was slightly likely to play this game regularly, also 2%. 7 of them were somewhat likely, which is 12%. 26 were very likely, 44% of the 59. And 24 were extremely likely, which is 41%, with extremely likely, again, being the ideal rating. As for the study's demographics, according to the demographic information that we collected in the study, 85% of them, of the participants, were male, which is 50 out of the 59, and the other 9, which is 15% of the participants, were female. Within the study, 5% of them were under the age of 8 years old, which is 3 of them. 80% of them were between the ages of 18 and 29, 47, an overwhelming majority, and 15%, which is 9 of them, were between the ages of 30 and 40. And here is where a Q&A would be. Thank you.